So my name is Cheryl Knepp, and I work within the North Carolina Department of Transportation's Biological Surveys Group. And our group is responsible for Endangered Species Act compliance for the department. So we conduct survey work, we consult with the service, and we work with them to ensure compliance with project commitments after the project's built. So I wanted to talk about a couple data sets that we maintain. The first data set is our bat bridge inspection database. Habitat assessments for bats on transportation structures are standard practice for NCDOT. All data collected is entered into a bat use database managed by our group. We have about 3,000 survey records. Statewide, we have 20% of DOT bridges that were surveyed had evidence for bat use. By region, that's 16% of bridges in the West and 31% in the East. So in North Carolina, 88% of bats were reported roosting in the crevices of our decks, compared to just roosting out in the open. So given all the components and the different mixed materials that could be used in bridge design, we have found the deck material is what we use to define bridge type. So that really gives the most useful information for managers as it relates to bat use. So we have about 14,000 bridges in the state. 95% have concrete decks, 4% are timber decks. So because most of the decks are concrete, as you would expect, 94% of positive bat use is in records statewide, is in concrete bridges. However, it's important to note the effort put forth in surveying timber bridges is greater than concrete. So we've surveyed 54% of our timber bridges, and we've still only found 1% of them had bat use. While 11%, we surveyed 11% of our concrete bridges, then we found that there's 20% use in those. So it just kind of further demonstrates that you're likely to, in North Carolina, find bats in concrete versus a timber bridge. So the ability to examine trends in data using a database such as this really informs our decision-making, like where conservation measures are best placed for DOTs, and focusing more on the habitat types that are most preferred. So the second data set I wanted to talk about is our Culvert database. Again, we do these habitat assessments, a standard practice. We have about 1,200 shown here. However, we began an additional survey sort of data collection effort in 2022. We wanted to know in what kinds of culverts are you most likely to encounter bats? What sizes? Is there a certain threshold that they'll stop using it? Are they concrete, metal, boxes, pipes? So to do this, we developed a binning strategy to kind of disperse the sample that we're doing across all the sizes and material types. Because if we just looked at our past data, we'd really only know about what's happening in bigger culverts, because that's all we went into, because that's what the habitat was assumed. But on the other hand, if you just randomly visited culverts without organizing the strata in some way, we'd only know about small culverts because they're the most common in our state. So I've highlighted in the top left there, you can see short to moderate length pipes less than 3 foot tall. They make up over 80% of our 340,000 culverts that we have in our state. So for this survey effort that we did, we have now sampled culverts across the full range of available sizes and types and materials. So this study was really the first of its kind to look across all the sizes and types and different combination of culverts in an entire state system, and to provide like the foundational estimates of prevalence or commonness of bats in culverts. So statewide, we found that about 5% of NCDOT culverts, 4.7, that were surveyed had evidence of bat use. By region, that was 4% in the West and 5% in the East. So this table shows the occurrence of bats in culverts in North Carolina. You can see bats were present in our culverts, but it's still pretty rare to find them. We have not detected bats in structures less than 3 foot tall, metal boxes, any plastic structures. And so together, all of those make up 80% of our structures. We found that they do prefer large concrete box culverts or medium-sized corrugated metal, depending on the species, greater than 3 foot tall and about 60 foot long. So while the frequency of bat detections within some categories like these, large concrete boxes or metal pipes, can appear high, we really have to consider the commonness of those culverts across the entire system. So the specific combination of dimensions, materials, and types that we're finding in North Carolina the bats prefer are relatively rare within our structures database. They only account for 9% of our structures. And so that's in the bottom right-hand side of the graphic. And if you remember from earlier, majority are in that top left side. So that's 80%. So prevalence is really the key word here and what we wanted to focus on. We're only talking about 9% of culverts in North Carolina that have those characteristics, and only 4% of those is what we found bats in. So if you distribute that across the entire 340,000 culverts that we have, that's less than 1% bat use. So in order to make statements about bat use in structures statewide, you have to, one, know what the composition is of the structures across your state. How many structures are concrete, how many are metal, how many are less than 3 foot tall, and so on and so on. And then you need to stratify your sampling effort across all those different bins so you can really make accurate statements about the percent use of bats in culverts. So these are our partners. I wanted to send a slide up here to thank everybody for giving us their data and for working through all of the analysis together. And I also posted our website up here. We have training materials that we offer, data forums. We have a standard operating procedure that we developed in 2014. And so all this is up here on the website, and then also my email if you want to talk to me individually about this. Sure, go ahead.
Your presentation, what's the culverts that you assessed? Were they dry or were they wet? And ask the question, in Massachusetts, most of our culverts are wet. And across New England, none of the DEPs have found with bats in culverts. So interesting that you're also seeing very low use. So not okay.
So the question was, are the culverts that you surveyed, were they wet culverts or were they dry culverts? And mostly their water was in them, especially the very small culverts. But yeah.
Did you find a length difference of freeboard in the culverts? If you had 10 culvert and it was working water and that account for any of your use?
I might have to talk to you separately. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Come find me.